What's up, YouTube? I decided to make a video because I could not find a good video of extending the snorkels on my Can-Am XMR. They're the same for all the XMRs, but hopefully this can help some of y'all. Okay, here I'm going to show you the exhaust for the CVT. If you look up underneath the front end on the XMR, right under the radiator, I am on the passenger side, right side. You'll see where the pipe goes up, comes up through this piece of hose here and connects to the bottom of this pre-filter, which is usually mounted to the radiator. Just 2 bolts takes that off. I think, yeah, just those 2 bolts there, I believe, is all that's connected. Actually, it might be 3. So that piece there comes completely off, goes into here. This goes down and connects to the pipe at that spot. There's actually a metal piece inside this tube to where you can connect. It's basically an inside coupling to connect from here up. So I pulled off just that top piece. This black rubber here is a rubber coupling, 2-inch to 1.5. Not this, going up, and it's 1.5 at the top end. Very simple, perfect fit, 2-inch. It's a round tube, so it fits perfectly. When you come up to the top side of there, I came out of that 1.5-inch coupling, just with a 1.5-inch pipe, 90-degree elbow coming up under the pod. I did have to cut out this corner of the pod. You can make it look nicer. You cut it as you go, kind of thing, so it's not going to be perfect unless you really take a lot of time. So once I come out of this 90-degree elbow, you just cut the pipe to length, 1.5-inch again, and then I have a 1.5-inch rubber elbow, just a 90-degree elbows rubber, so it's flexible. From there, another 1.5-inch piece of pipe, and from there it will come through the top of the dash here. And that is it for the exhaust side of the CVT belt. Here you can see the finished intake for the motor. You can see the stock piece of piping here. This rubber hose is just it's a hose that's formed. You can see I put a clamp on it. It will fit directly onto, well, actually it's the original pipe, so it will fit fine right here in this area. Put a pipe clamp there on it to make it nice and tight. What I had to do, because it's angled a different way, it's more laying down the way it is stock, I had to turn it. There's a notch on the edge here, and you can see it right here. There's actually 2 notches on mine now, because this is the original notch that fit right here. To turn this piece, I just cut a little notch out to where it still slides up snug. And the reason I did that is so I could get this piece to stick straight up. Put a 1.5-inch piece of PVC into there, and again, straight through the top of the dash. That's a very simple piece. You can see on the original piece, I just cut off. And what I'll do is I'll show you I've got a spare one, and I'll show you where exactly I cut it to give you a better idea. Okay, so here is the original piece. You can see that little notch I was talking about. And what I ended up having to do, because of the way it sits something like that. And I needed it to sit upwards so I could come through the dash. So I put the notch further around. I believe it's really close to that line in the molding. I'm not sure if you can see. I believe the line is right behind that spot there. So that would be, right at the edge of that line is where I put my cut, and it fit. I just put a cut from here to that line, just big enough, it's the same size as that, and it snugged down. So if you can look at the pipe I've got in there, if I count the rings, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. So just above the 4th ring, counting this one, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was where I cut it, which is about half of it. But then that way when you have it sitting there, it actually will turn up at a 90-degree, so you can come straight up through the pod. So here we go on the exhaust side. I believe earlier I mentioned the other side and I called it the exhaust side. Actually, that's the intake side that went up to the top of the radiator. So on this one here, you can see the stock rubber hose comes up into here. Kind of the same thing I did with the intake going into the motor. Just used it, cut off at one of the marks on here. Looks like it's the second one going up. A 2-inch pipe fits perfect down in there, nice and snug. Squeeze it down in there nice and tight, put your clamp on it, you'll be good. From there, 2-inch into 1.5, and then a 1.5 piece going through the pod. It's that simple on this one here. When it comes through, and I'll show you what it looks like just with the 3 pieces, but when it comes through, you can do whatever you want on the top side. I'll show you what I did with mine, and I'll explain why. And it's already benefited me because I have already been on a ride with this a couple times. Had a fuse go and needed to get to my fuse panel, which, as most people know, is underneath here. If you permanently attach this with PVC glue through the top of the pod, you will not be able to get that off on the trail. I wanted something accessible on the trail, and I'll show you what I did. All right, so here I have it. Everything's closed up underneath. Exhaust side of the CVT, intake for the motor, intake for the belt. You can see it fits in there fine. Got all my hoses ran up that I need to have run up. I've only got 4, I believe, because I've got bellows on both my diffs, so that stops me from needing those extra. And here you can see where I had to cut the pod to get this pipe to go up underneath the radiator. From there, I'll show you how I put the top piece on. Some people like it a little more close, but with putting removable couplings on there, it's a little bit off the dash. But you'll see how that is in just a minute. Okay, here we go. Finished product of my snorkel extension. Give you a once around and show you what I did with it. As you can see, I got my vent lines up. I only have 4 because that's all I needed, because I put bellows on both my diffs. You can see I have a rubber coupling on each one, which caused it to sit up a little higher, adding that. But the reason for it is I can remove this on the trail with no problem. Just pulling off these bottom clamps, slides off, and then I can remove my dash to get to my fuse panel, which is up under there. One of the problems I had, and it wasn't major, but it was enough I decided to add something, is I made this bracket here. All it is just a flat piece of steel, bolted it to the front through the radiator support, and up here on the pipe clamp, just put a little bend in it to where it would sit snug against this pipe, and put a clamp on it, and it doesn't move anywhere. It doesn't shake when I'm riding. That's the problem I had, is you'll see, being that this is all rubber couplings, it would kind of, depending on the type of bumps you're hitting, it would kind of rock back and forth, and it no longer does that. Rides very good in any condition. If you do it how I did coming down here, you'll be able to remove it easy on the trail if needed to get the fuses. And other than that, you can do whatever you want from the top. This is just how I did it, trying to keep it down as low as possible. I wanted to do 90s from here, which would have kept it snug to the top, but of course, like I said, with the rubber couplings, that wasn't going to work.